Oh, man. All righty. Welcome in to the PHNX Rising podcast. Phoenix is rising, and so are we. But my word, we have so much to talk about. It's not just your typical run-of-the-mill off-season pod. No. There is just so much to go off of. The news yesterday during our emergency pod, head coach Juan Guerra is no longer head coach of Phoenix Rising. We're going to be discussing all of that and more. And we have two gentlemen joining me today, right? We have, of course, Mr. Owain Evans, and we had to bring in someone else because this is just too much news for only two men on this podcast to handle. We do have, of course, Mr. Jake Anderson. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's
been a whirlwind week, 5 days, whatever it's been.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been a month.
Yeah,
honestly, for how much we've been discussing this since it all started to come out, and now it's finally official. And looking forward, it's still a lot of unknowns.
A lot of unknowns. I mean, you're right. Like, so much has changed since we were last in this position, talking a week ago, and just wow. Like, again, everything changing Thursday morning, and just from there, it's just been a roller coaster, really. 1 minute it's Juan going to be here, then it's, well, there's all the talk, and then it moves on to, hang on a minute, this has slowed down, and then finally getting over the line and the news breaking yesterday. But wow, what a week it's been. And of course we're only a week away now from players reporting.
Less than that.
I mean, less than a week away.
It's Monday.
From players reporting. They report on Monday.
No big deal. Just
we
just
don't know
a
who
cram week.
Imagine going to work on Monday and you don't know who your boss is.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's where we find ourselves right now.
Unless something's decided sooner rather than later, yeah.
I'm looking over at Saul Bookman, and he is very much here, so we're good on that front. But yes, Phoenix Rising is in a different situation, right? By the way, everyone in the chat, please hit that like button. There are multiple of you here. I'm seeing 6 likes. What are we doing? Get those numbers up. Hit those thumbs up, people. Jake, I had a chance, right, to talk with Owain, right? We did the emergency pod yesterday, and I really got his thoughts on it. What were your initial thoughts? And I get this is kind of a loaded question, knowing that, right, kind of sat on it for a bit and then became official yesterday. When it became official, it does hit differently just a bit. And how are you kind of resonating with everything?
It's bittersweet. You knew this day would come eventually. Maybe not this year, maybe not this early, and especially not this close to this preseason, right? Especially after everything that we saw Juan and Bobby and Brandon doing, right, in the north of Italy, and all the recruiting that they've been doing, and the expected signings that are still yet to be announced. But now that it is over, it's like, okay, it's official. It maybe happened earlier than anyone would have thought. Mm-hmm. Now you kind of look, and it's, what's going to happen? Are they going to promote an in-house staff member? Are they going to go external? My biggest question has been the players who were sold on Juan. Mm-hmm. What happens now? What is your thought? Because it's the guy that you were sold on, that you were going to put your career in for the next year at least, if not more, because some guys did sign multiple year deals. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, he's gone. You now have to earn the trust potentially of a brand new coach. Again, we don't know what's happening. And I think that's been the biggest question mark. Right? They only have, 4 preseason games have been announced, which is not a lot, especially in comparison to years past. And when I talked to Juan on the plane back from the final, it was January 15th. We're going to report 2 weeks earlier than we did last season. I know we talked about, we know where our north is, and it seemingly came out of nowhere just because of the timing of it. If this would have happened in maybe December,
sure,
right, before they did all the recruiting internationally, I get it. But hey, I'm happy for Juan at the end of the day. Like him moving up is something, right? This is a USL club. You're always going to be happy for the guys when they can go to MLS or they can go to English League One. We've seen guys bounce to these other leagues, and you're happy for the progress. But I'm going to miss him dearly personally. I know the fans will. I know the community will. I have no problem saying he was the best coach this club's ever had, both on and off the pitch. And the off the pitch aspect is going to be the thing that I think we're all going to miss the most.
Absolutely. But you know what? Let's look maybe at the on the pitch and look at some of the stats from Juan Guerra's reign actually as head coach here in Phoenix. But if we have a look at some of these, and this is cumulative, all competitions, all stages, and of course, as we know, wins from kicks from the mark count as draws. But 505 days in charge here in Phoenix, 20 wins, 14 draws, 16 losses. Works out at a plus 15 goal difference over the time he's here. And at home, 52% winning percentage for him over that spell. And you know what? Those numbers feel like, I mean, what is it? It's 50 games?
Doing some math real quick. That is 50 games.
50
yes,
games.
20 plus
50
14
games.
We're all right
So,
for a living,
50,
so
yes.
let's get someone to double check for that.
But it's, I mean, again, right? Look, does it look necessarily the most impressive when you put those numbers out there? It's relatively even across the board. Maybe not. But this is a team that really, I think, just everything off the field that he managed to do with the team themselves, with the players, the way he managed to bring them together as a group. That's why, come the end of the season, they were incredibly hard to beat. And when you make a team that's that incredibly hard to beat, and you're doing it in a league that runs on this kind of a playoff format, whereby you go out there and if you can win 4 games, you win the league.
Technically, don't even have to win.
You don't have to win.
No.
You have to draw and advance, ultimately.
Right.
Yeah.
But as long as you can do that, you can win the league, then having that togetherness, having that kind of, you win together, you lose together kind of mentality that they had really developed in that team, I think, over the course of the year. It's critical, and finding someone now going forward who's going to be able to replicate that, to keep that spirit there within the squad is going to be pivotal. And then, as you mentioned, right, the off-field stuff as well, just the connection that he built with the fan base. I think there was, and I know I touched on this when we were speaking yesterday, Max, but like just some head coaches, I mean, and we see this from our perspective, particularly as media, some head coaches are more, receptive to having people around. They're more receptive to pulling back the curtain and letting you see what is going on and letting, the fans get closer to it through the media. And Juan was always one of those guys. Okay. He was someone who was always, his door was always open. He was always willing to let us showcase the club in the best way that we possibly could. And that's going to be the challenge now, is finding obviously someone to come in later on now who's going to be able to match that.
I think another thing that maybe we don't think about as much, but from the player standpoint is, especially compared to previous regimes, Juan would take the blame on himself. Juan never singled out players and called them out, right? If things weren't going wrong, he blamed himself. And when things went right, he congratulated them.
Right. You never saw him single out players in a way that we previously have and would have seen.
Sure.
Maybe after 1 or 2 games, you get the collective, we as a group weren't good enough.
Right.
But he would include himself in that as well.
And
You're right.
And that's just it. You never know what's going on closed doors, right? He's having those individualized conversations. If guys are getting called out in private, okay, that's what you would expect from a coach. But to your point, he's never facing the fall from the media. And I think that's the part that's, really interesting. I mean, I see Tomas in the chat build the statue. And it's so true. I mean, Jake, echoing your point of like, I don't think that's a bold or even a presumptuous thing to say at all, of like, he's been with the club in the head coaching position for about a year and a half, right? He, in those 1.5 seasons, he has by far been the most successful, not just on the on-field product where it won in the championship, but I think the lasting impact. Yes, this team has had some very good regular season runs in years past, but it wasn't quite the same. And I think on what both of you guys are saying, you really felt it in the community aspect, not just from all of the fans. I mean, fans don't have to go out of their way to say, thank you, Gavra, thank you, coach, posting pictures where Juan is posting with them or letting them touch the trophy, all of these things. You don't have to do that. You are not under any obligation to do that as a fan. Most of the time, you're seeing either a lukewarm reaction, sometimes negative or whatever. There was nothing but positive praise. And I think while the trophy definitely helps that, even if he were leaving without that trophy, I think this is something where he won over the fan base. He had many of his detractors. He had people in the beginning where they either weren't trusting the process, they didn't want to let Juan cook, as we always like to say here in the chat. But at the end of the day, the man cooked, and he cooked up something. He cooked up a title, but he really cooked his way into the fans' hearts, if you will.
You know, I'll actually add on to this a bit, though, because I mentioned about kind of pulling back the curtain.
Yeah.
I'm partly doing that through us and doing that through other media members. But one other thing that I noticed, and this is really critical, like you look towards the end of the season and inviting season ticket holders to go out and watch training sessions.
Yep.
How many football coaches do that?
Massive.
You look at the way that he would invite the fans in to show their appreciation for every playoff game.
Yeah.
And the last training session they had before they left. How many coaches do that? They don't. By and large, they like the separation. Juan was inviting people in because he said this from the very beginning, right? That this club belongs to the fans. He knew that he was here temporarily. He knows the players are here temporarily. The club ultimately belongs to the fans.
Yeah.
And he put that into practice, I think, a lot more than most coaches that you see in the professional ranks.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we were in Charleston, and for those that were in Charleston can attest to it as well. He gave a hug outside of the bus to each and every fan that was there if they wanted one. If they right, like
he's giving beers away.
Right,
He was handing beers
He was
out.
handing
Right?
beers. It was awesome.
like again, I've never seen a coach at any level do that, right? And you don't have to, but like it was him giving back. It's who he was. He was the same guy from start to finish.
100%.
You know, in that first 6 months, or even fewer than that first half season when he was here in 22. That wasn't his team.
Yeah.
And he brings in 17 new guys, 17 new players that finally click toward the end of the season and go on this immaculate run, which I don't think will ever be repeated, not in the manner in which they did it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like we were really getting ready for this defense title run.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like this team's reloading. This team's got their gaffer. This team's got everything. And I think now it's just kind of like, as you asked at the beginning, it's just like it kind of hits you like this is real, man. That this is like the Juan Guerra era is over.
It is. It's you know, it's one of those when you see someone with, it's not even potential because he got in this team. There was always potential, but he actually delivered on bringing a title to this club. They have won the USL Championship. They are the defenders for it this coming year. But the interesting thing is it's a mix of, okay, they won it, but with the core coming back, with so many new players who are expected to be key contributors, there is still a bit of that, okay, but there's still potential that's left on the table. That to me is the fascinating part from this era, is even though it was widely successful, both on and off the pitch, there's still that element of, okay, well, what could this have been, dare I say, a dynasty with Juan Guerra at the helm? It remains to be seen. There again, we're going to get into this a little bit later, how Rising goes forward from this. But to me, I think that's the one aspect. And I'll turn it back to you guys. But the one thing I think that's also need to be said is, right, we talk about his interaction with the fans, with the players. Everyone loves him. You know, even on the media side of things, I think, again, it kind of goes back to there's so many, people who, out inside the sport, outside the sport, they don't have to give the time of day outside of the minimum obligations or whatnot. He was always very generous with his time. I know, especially for you both, have been covering this team for, numerous years, that I think you guys can attest to. He was always just a guy who he'd call you by your first name, the little things. He'd be very respectful of his time, even after a brutal loss or after, right, where it's probably not the first thing he's wanting to do. He would give insight. He would give answers that, not only were insightful, but just treat you like a person, right? We saw Ramon. I saw what he put on Twitter of saying, "Hey, like helping to really influence things from that's from like the Spanish perspective and everything of being able to write." Give back to just a different audience, to put more eyeballs on things that a lot of Rising fans could resonate with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't think we're going to draw comparisons here, because for both of us, we've only really had one other head coach to work with over this time. And let's not get into that one. But but yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you never, I think, went into a post-game interview with Juan with the feeling that he was going to try and rush out of it as quickly as he could. You never went into one where it was like, he's going to answer 2 questions and want nothing else beyond that. He would stay, he would answer as much as you had for him. And honestly would often stay after as well, and talk more about where things are going. But he was someone who always believed, I think, in the project that he had there, and just that belief, that just energy and excitement he had for the project and what he was building, keeping that up over the course of a year, the players fed off of that. And I think that was critical in terms of making sure that the players were understanding it, the fans were being taken along with the team as well. All of those things, just all really, really critical components.
I also think a big factor that previous regimes might have not had, at least at the head coaching level, is Juan did everything that these players have done. Like, Juan was a player. Juan played at the international level. He has faced media as a player. He knows what it's like. So I think he can use that, and he did, to say, I am the example. I know what you guys are going through. I'm only asking you to do things that I've done before. And I think he was able to really use that both inside the locker room, things we don't see, but also going back to what I said about he never threw his own players under the bus. Mm-hmm. And if he did, it was a collective. And then he only gave the credit to the players. Like, he always said that. He always talked about it's about the players. It's about the players. And Houston's got a good one. I'll tell him that.
Yeah, guys, it's I see again, Damas in the chat. It's so long to the Guerra era. That's gosh, man, that's really good. That's a really good ring of things. But remains to be seen where Rising moves forward. That's a little teaser for the next segment. How we're going to be moving forward. So the friends of Four Peaks, right? We are turning the year. There is 4 Peaks aplenty. I see Owain is working on, is that not one, but 2?
We got the peach here.
Peach ale. Oh, little peach ale, huh? Yes, my man. Well, if you guys see little 4 Peaks action on screen, right? They got the new refresh logo. They got the beers flowing, everything like that. And guys, they're always up to something new. And boy, oh boy, do they have something new for you guys. They have a new year, new beer. It's the Bad Birdie Juicy Golden Ale. It's a collab between Four Peaks and Bad Birdie, both Arizona local, super drinkable. It's a perfect companion at the tee box, in your fridge, down your gullet, all that different type of stuff. As Owain you don't like the use of gullet on that one. Yeah, see, he doesn't like that one. I love making Owain cringe.
Max, it's just you and your ad reads, my friend.
Gotcha, buddy.
Sorry, yeah.
Yep. Visit fourpeaks.com/locator to find all your favorite beers and events. Check them out at Four Peaks Pub and at Four Peaks Brew. Keep up with the latest and greatest going on in Arizona's hometown brewery. You must be 21 years or older. Drink Four Peaks responsibly. We all know where we can find Four Peaks. It is at our friends at Circle K. Guys, new year, join the Inner Circle program. I'm trying to save you guys some money. Get on those New Year's resolutions, whether that's saving money, whether that's loading up on new snacks. I hear that's part of people's New Year's resolution. Circle K's Inner Circle program is the perfect way to do that. Again, sign up, save 25 cents off a gallon, your first 5 fill-ups. Super easy. All you do, download the Circle K app, opt in with a phone number, and then that's it. You just get free rewards, free savings, free gas, or not free. Oh, whoa. Discounted gas. Can't give away free gas. Hey. Discounted gas.
Don't have a promise here, man.
No.
I
would never talk. Let's not clip that. Download the Circle K app, Inner Circle program. Again, all the great stuff. And yeah, join today, guys. Awesome stuff to look forward to. Phoenix Rising has some awesome stuff to look forward to, guys. We officially have a head coaching vacancy.
Yeah.
And it's a weird time, right? We've said the timing of this is absolutely kind of wild, late in the season.
There's never a good time.
There's never a good time, especially everything going on. Usually you see head coaching vacancies and it's, oh, wow, usually after a poor season. Not the case when you win the title. So we're going to be talking through some really kind of what that looks like, which direction Rising should go. But guys, kind of on the big picture landscape, from a qualitative standpoint, how does Rising approach this, knowing that, again, you're not going to be able to out and out replace a guy like Juan Guerra?
No, you can't. I think right now it's just a question of finding ways to build on what Juan did. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be back to square one. That's the biggest thing here. Mm-hmm. Okay, you had a championship win. You not only had a championship win, but now I think this team, you look at some of the additions that have been confirmed. Mm-hmm. You look at some of the additions that are, being spoken about, not yet official, but that we've definitely heard about here and that, have definitely been going around on social media as well. And you look at that, I think there is a potential here that this team could be better than last year's team in terms of just the sheer quality on the field. Now, there's still some work to be done. Danny Trejo, obviously, that needs some replacing. And that's a big step up for somebody to do right now. But when you look at this team as a whole, they've got the bones of another contender right there. The key thing is that for that team, which has been by and large recruited in the vision of Juan Guerra, sold on that vision, you need someone who's going to come in and is going to treat this like it's just something to build on top of rather than completely remodel. You don't want a big clash with the previous ideas that were being implemented here.
Right. There's two ways to go about this. As Owen just said, you build on what you have, which would lean me to think that you promote within, or you're going to have to convince somebody, unless you can find a guy, and I don't know who that's going to be, if you can find someone who has similar ideologies. If not, you're going to have to, no coach is going to want to come in and be the boss and not want to put their hands all over and put their, right? It's, so like you just said, I don't think you would want a flash sale in a year's time when it's the first offseason under the new head coach and he wants to bring in his team, which is why I think it would be more advantageous for the club long term if you stayed with the staff that he has built and promote one of them, which might, I mean, if I had to pick personally, it would be Danny Stone.
I mean, I'm not sure who else in that staff you could or would promote, to be honest.
Exactly. But, and we were talking about this before we went live. Again, I'm not familiar with all the languages this coaching staff speaks, but to my knowledge, I don't know if there truly is a Spanish-speaking coach right now on the staff, which with this roster is a little bit of a problem.
We do have Geronimo, the fitness coach,
right.
at the moment, but you're right in terms of I understand that if you were to say promote from within and go with Danny Stone, you'd look at it and go, okay, we need a native speaker in there of Spanish because of the nature of the squad that's being constructed and all of that. That, to me, though, was an easier fix, right?
Oh, 100%.
You're opening up another assistant spot, right?
Yeah.
This team they had 2 assistants going into last season. Of course, we saw that Marcos left halfway through the year. But they could well, if a new coach comes in now, have 2 assistants in terms of Danny Stone and Darnell King. True. That is fixable. You just make sure that other assistant coach in there is a native Spanish speaker.
Right.
I do think that's critical, but look, I mean, we can talk a little bit about Danny Stone, I think, because he is the only, I think, serious internal candidate for the job. We do have a bit of his background actually available here. We can go and run through, but he's, of course, formerly a professional footballer. He played with Notts County in the 3rd tier in England.
Over 1,000 minutes in the 2002-2003 season.
He did. He made his debut back in 2001 with them. And look, was it the lengthiest of 10 years in the professional ranks, really, as a footballer? No, not really. But it was enough. It's enough. He's got a professional footballing background.
It is. I also want to shout out this. There's a great article written by the one, the only Mr. Owen Evans on GoPHNX.com, shouting this out.
Indeed, indeed. But then you look at where he goes from there. 2010, he moves to the Rapids. He works with the academy there. There's a lot of work to kind of rebuild their academy. By 2015, he's moved up. He's now a first-team assistant coach there. And then 2018, moves over to OKC Energy. He follows Steve Cook, of course, who, again, someone who actually we recognize. He was in Phoenix at one stage. And he was working with the academy over here in Phoenix with that. And then in 2021, Danny Stone joins Rick Shantz's staff at that point as an assistant coach. And he's been here ever since. So this is a guy now who has got nearly a decade of experience as an assistant coach at the professional level. And then,
massive.
When you add on top of that, he's someone who's got an A license, right? He's got a US Soccer A license, which is the standard that's expected. I mean, we should be perfectly fair. I'd say it's higher than Rick Schantz had, okay? Let's be clear on that, okay? That's the standard that's expected for a head coach under US Soccer's Pro League standards. As you look at then, the other things that he's got going for him, he's a well-liked guy. You speak to a lot of players who have played for him. They like Danny. They respect Danny. And I mean, it's something I raised in the article as well. He actually has links to the area. He lived for a bit as a kid in Tempe.
Yeah.
He spent some time there, despite the fact that he's English. He did spend time here in the Valley as a kid growing up. He went to Corona del Sol High School.
Yeah. I mean, it's something right. It's guy with links to the Valley who has been here, who has a little bit of everything you want, right? He has the professional experience playing. He has the experience within the professional ranks as assistant coach, has been under Juan's staff. And I think kind of going off what you guys are saying, it's the interesting point of if you hire externally, and this is not to discredit Danny Stone, but if you hire externally, you need to be hitting it out of the park, not just from the timing perspective, but knowing that, again, while you are not going to get a like-for-like replacement for Juan Guerra, you want to be able to carry over at least some of the continuity, but from an on-field perspective, but also just someone who has a familiarity with the community. If you bring someone externally, is it possible or is it impossible? It's not impossible. It just makes it so much harder. And it's not, to me, this is not saying this is the fail-safe option, but it's the one that, let's call it what it is. It makes the most sense based on where you're at in the season, how close we are, how the players' familiarity, and just if you're looking to start the season in a couple weeks, which they are with the regular season less than 2 months away, I think it's your best shot of being able to run it back in my mind.
Yeah, I get that. I'll also say this. You're mentioning external candidates in there, right? Unless Danny doesn't want the role, which of course is the caveat to this, right? We aren't inside his head. We can't tell you if he wants to be the head coach in this role or not, or if he's one of those guys who's perfectly happy being an assistant. Sure. There are people who are like that, right? We know of coaches who are like, they like being involved in football. They don't always want to be in the top job. But if he wants the job, then to me, if you're going external, if you're going with an external candidate in this case, I don't want to see a face that's part of the USL coaching carousel. I don't want to see a regular USL name around there because that to me is not the right move in this case when you've got a perfectly qualified option sitting there in your staff already.
You wouldn't want to see Landon Donovan.
No, you wouldn't want to see Landon Donovan. If you are bringing someone in, it should be a name.
Yeah.
It should be someone that surprises us and we're impressed with the credentials that they're bringing in, particularly impressed with the credentials that they're bringing in. I do not want to see another USL level coach coming in when you have a perfectly qualified guy sitting here in Phoenix who would be a much better continuity option in terms of taking this squad forward. I just feel like it's not setting the right tone for the new season to go externally if you know, in this case. I just don't think it would be the right move. I do think, to be honest, that of the guys who are currently working in USL, to me, Danny Stone is the one that stands out as I think you've got to give him the job.
I think the fact that we can't even come up with a name other than Danny Stone says,
and people will want it, right? People want this job because it's one of the more glamorous ones in USL. Look at the roster
you'll be taking over.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all playing together with offseason to work together, unlike last year where this is just, hey, nice to meet you. We're going to be playing together for the next 10 months. Like, man, that's it. What a luxury to now be able to build upon that from last year. I mean, I think the one thing I will say, right, if we do putting the external card on the table, I think the one thing is while you do want someone who has the pedigree, who has a big name, you cannot overlook that from the community standpoint, you don't want someone who's, I'm not going to say larger than life, but you want someone who is able to be relatable to this community, who is able to build that bond. But you also want to make sure that, again, not someone who's going to just alienate the locker room. You want to be able to have someone who's able to mesh well with these players and lead them by example, not just based on their CV.
Yeah. I mean, we were chatting like Luis Sejas could be a name, but we don't know. It's just a name, right?
But I also don't think necessarily that him having not been an assistant coach at a professional level seriously is ready to take on a head coaching role.
If I could wave the magic wand, I think him being the assistant that replaces Danny as Danny becomes manager might actually be the dream
right?
Look,
pretty nice.
And I've actually had that described by certain people who've worked with all three of them. To be honest, as
That's pretty nice. I do see, well, we're not going to call it style like Brady, actually. Alexi Lawless, he's asking Alexi Lawless in the chat.
Why are we calling him Brady now?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Saul called him Brady. Yeah, this
don't
is Reese.
bully. Don't
Reese
bully
is now
people.
called Brady, everyone.
Max,
I do want to.
Hang on, Max. No. We're not having you bullying.
I'm just reading the transcript, what was said earlier. Anyway, I want to scroll up real quick.
Stat Lackey deserves respect, Max.
He did put in some good work. You're right. Stat Lackey. No name. Let's scroll up real quick from Albert. He did ask the question a little bit earlier in the chat, a little bit up right there. So it does ask, do you utilize Danny for the season, assess and decide if you want to give him the permanent gig at the end of the year? I will ask a rendition of this that maybe answers the question is a little bit phrased differently. If this all happens with Juan Guerra leaving, and this is late November, like right after the final, late November, earlier December, are we asking the question a bit more about an external candidate, or does your decision remain the same?
I think that the nerviness on that, and is that you'd sit back, you'd think, okay, we're not in a rush, and then what you do then is you miss the initial jump on other players, on free agents become available. You end up with a team that's more at that point probably driven by the ideas and desires of Bobby Dooley as the club president, Brandon McCarthy as the club sporting director, and have less involvement from the coaching staff. And the problem you get then is the coaches that come in may or may not agree with those decisions that have been made. Because you've got that, realistically, it's one of two choices, isn't it? You accept that you're starting the offseason late, which is never a good thing to do.
And after the playoff run, you already were.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, there have been discussions. I know that.
Right, but you're not able to go hands in the way you would.
No, not in the way
that
the teams that had been done for a month were. You're correct.
The other difference too is if we are, again, this is all the hypothetical game. We didn't think we'd be able to do this right in this position, but if you are playing the hypothetical of you're trying to make this hire within the late November, early December, you're also not having necessarily confirmed the same guys back who you thought you would be having to choose from on this roster, because coming back, a lot of it having to do with Juan Guerra being the head coach in place.
No, that's understandable, but I will say that sometimes these deals are signed well in advance.
That's a fair
point. Just because they're not out there publicly doesn't mean that they're not. We need to understand, I've looked at seasons past, and I know we've heard about those talk of players re-signing and coming to agreements before the season is even finished, before the regular season is even finished. You end up with players who are ultimately going to re-sign. They've either already agreed in principle, or they could have even put pen to paper at that point.
Absolutely. I do see Fat Kid in the chat. Sejas would be clutch. I also will scroll up real quick, a little bit further. I saw something. Eric. Yes. What about Ian Russell? Oh my goodness! I thought you never asked.
Max Simpson, Reno 1868.
Former Reno 1868.
Okay, Max.
No, in all seriousness,
hey, rumor has it that all three of us were there the night they died. Is that true?
Reno's in a box.
Max played footy with me last week and wore Reno shorts.
Did he actually?
He did.
He did.
Jake,
you wear Reno shorts.
Jake, I got them free from the club, bro.
That are in a box.
Look, listen, they're good condition. What can I say? Keeping their memory
better condition
alive?
than the club.
Is that why you stepped? Is that why you stepped on me? 5 seconds in.
Oh my gosh!
After I took the ball from
you didn't take the ball from me. I dispossessed myself.
I took the ball from you. That's why my foot was there, and then you stepped on it.
No. Anyway, we all know who had the better of that. Thank you very much. For those who are listening audio, I'm raising my hand, and Jake is not. Anyway, Ian Russell. He actually is a very intriguing candidate, and not just because the Reno connection. I think, and having watched him for those 3 seasons that was in Reno, stylistically, he plays a different brand of football, but it is possession based. He definitely, likes to utilize the wingbacks. I very much remember, a young,
was this a full-on man-to-man marking defense? Am I remembering correctly?
What's that?
You'd remember it better than I will.
What's that?
There was a club, and I think it was Reno, that they literally played like basketball-style defense, where you just followed a guy. It was something I'd never seen before.
No. There's a bit more within the high press, a high line of you're going to try to not let them play out the back, but certainly not covering out over the pitch. No.
Okay.
But that was even you saw guys where Seth Kasipley, granted, he was last year with Orange County in the center mid. He was a guy who would play out wide a bit. Brent Richards was very much on that wingback position. Even Sam Gleedle, right? He's now an out and out more of a winger, but he was very much within that wingback position. He was a manager who very much utilized those outside backs, very much like to stretch the field vertically, get up and down. There are a lot of similarities. From all accounts, from what you hear from players, he very much was a locker room guy. Players loved him. I will say, and this is not make or break, he's a very, very different communicator than Juan Guerra is. And we'll call it what it is. Most potential candidates will be. Ian Russell is very much, I'm not going to say an introverted guy, but he's very much not a guy who going to go out of his way to, have the big speeches or giving the things with, media and stuff like that. Maybe more of a one-on-one aspect, but I just think it's a different guy that you'd be hitching your wagon to. I'm not saying it's a bad one. I think stylistically, there's a lot of on-field stuff that I do like, and that it's not too much of a differentiator based on the guys you have. But from a cultural standpoint, it's different. It's certainly different.
He is back at the moment with San Jose as an assistant coach.
Yep.
Because San Jose, a team where he spent the vast majority of his career.
And there's the strong connection with bringing up players, when they affiliate with Earthquakes. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like Blair, Gavin, when he was the interim for that short time. And just not a man of few words, right? He wasn't one to really elaborate into things the way Juan did. I know this isn't about Rick Schantz, but should Danny get promoted? Am I wrong? And this will be the 4th assistant under the Schantz tree to become a manager at any level? Be Juan, Danny, Blair, and Rambo. Am I missing someone?
Well, Rambo's not really a manager, is he?
Right, but he went back to Newcastle.
Yeah,
okay, he's at a good level.
It's not right. That's my point.
You would say it's a vertical promote. Right. Even if it's same time, it's a vertical.
You went
based
back
on
to
the
the
club.
Prem youth team. Like
For sure.
It's not like
right, but then it gets into the. This is where the debate would be, and I don't think we should get into it today.
Either way, three.
I know.
We're not the question is three. Call it three.
I know, but this is where I was going to get into. This is where we get into the debate then, which I don't think we should necessarily have today because we've got enough other things we can focus on instead. But the question then becomes a question of did Rick develop those coaches, or did Rick was he carried by those coaches? In his background stuff. You look at the sheer amount of talent
on that.
That's a spin-off.
You look at the sheer amount of talent that he has had in those backroom staffs, and the amount of talent that then has moved on to bigger and better places. You mentioned Blair Gavin. He's just moved on now as an assistant coach back to New England Revolution, where he played in the past. He's leaving Tulsa behind. But yeah, there's so much talent that he's had in there. I mean, it would also mark the fact that he'd be the 3rd former Phoenix Rising assistant coach to become the head coach of Phoenix Rising after Rick Schantz. And of course, because he didn't do it directly, you don't always think about it, but Juan Guerra did that. Okay? Every head coach since Patrice Carteron has previously worked with this team.
3rd Arizonan, 2nd Valley native, kind of. I mean, if you go to high school here...
He only did it for a short spell.
Hey, it's still formative years. It's still youth. I count it.
He's counting it. Okay.
As a Valley youth product, I'll count it.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm a Golden Boot winner. Wait, well, actually, that's a real thing. Anything else on Danny Stone, gentlemen?
I am from here.
You are from.
I'm not sure that's on Danny Stone, but okay, thank you, Jake. Look, again, I just really want to underline this. It's someone who I think, just basing off of, look, I put that article out earlier. You mentioned it earlier, right, about how you look at Danny Stone and just some of the qualifications that he has or doesn't have with this job. The positive reaction to that from the fan base, to me, makes it clear that they would be comfortable with this as an appointment. So I understand that you may look at it and think, is it ambitious enough? I can see why someone may come out with that. But you could go far, far worse than appointing Danny Stone as a manager. And I don't think that anyone will think you've got it wrong if you go with Danny Stone.
Yeah, it's a very easy... in a hypothetical, let's say we fast forward, if Danny Stone is the one appointed, it is a very easy narrative to say that this was the convenient choice, that it was the safe choice.
But he's
that
a
was the
qualified
comfortable
choice. That's the thing.
And here's the thing. Even if any of those narratives, whether true or not, He's a qualified choice. And again, if you are looking at this through the perspective of who gives you the best chance to defend the cup, we won the cup, defend the cup. Who gives you the best chance? It's not a bad argument to make for the guy who was there all through last season, who has the most continuity with these players, and a guy who, right, is a likable guy within the locker room, a likable guy within the community. It's an option where if you're the Phoenix Rising, if you're making that decision, if you're in the ownership group, it's something you're weighing heavily, not just because of the timing, but because of the candidates available.
Chat to coaches who've worked with him, chat to players who have played under him. They will all say they really get on with Danny Stone.
Amen.
Here's my question. We're talking about why Danny should. Why shouldn't he? Like, give me a reason why he shouldn't. Give me a reason why Bobby and Brandon would say no.
Again, it's got to be, to me,
a home run.
You can pull off a name that we're going to see and go, wow.
Yeah.
Okay? If the only reason you don't go for him is if you feel like you can genuinely get someone who is a lot better. But that doesn't always work. And I know we were talking about this earlier with Max, and how you look at some of these big name coaches.
Tab Ramos.
Tab Ramos is the perfect example.
Eric Winalda.
Goes into Hartford, utter failure. Eric Winalda, I'm not going to pick on him quite so much because I'll say this. He did all right for a Las Vegas Lights coach. I think Las Vegas,
a very low bar,
Las
but yes.
Vegas are hamstrung by reasons that go far beyond. Las Vegas Lights, have they announced the player yet? Have they announced anything yet? It's January.
I interviewed a llama.
I
don't think they have.
I hope they announced they're folding.
Everyone does that every offseason, Jake. But it's not getting any closer. Here we go. Here we go.
MLS Las Vegas comes.
They tweeted today, Las Vegas Lights. We see a sign of life. We're exactly 2 months away from kicking off our 2024 USL Championship season. Season tickets are available now. You don't have any players' names.
Come for the Danny Stone discussion. Stay for the Las Vegas Lights banter.
Yeah. But look, at the end of the day, sometimes the big names work. Sometimes they don't.
It's the unknown. It is not. There is no certainty whether it's internal or external. But from the timing of where you're at in the offseason to knowing who is on your roster and how those players can play, you have to be so dang sure if you are going to be bringing someone else outside, because you're hoping that the name and the tactics and their experience is going to elevate something that is above the internal knowledge and experience and that hands-on one-to-one connection that has been built through what Danny Stone and Juan Guerra and that staff did all through last year. It's got a lot to weigh. We're going to see and keep you guys informed of what's happened. But yeah, man, buckle up. Here's for a couple weeks.
I'll say this now. I'll say this. I think if Danny Stone is given the job and it doesn't work, I don't think we will look back on this decision in 6 months' time and really question what they were thinking.
Yeah.
We'll all know what the thinking process is. It's an easily defensible decision to make.
Yep.
And if it doesn't work, which sometimes it doesn't,
yeah.
Okay, sometimes the right move on paper doesn't work. It happens. We won't question it, I think,
absolutely,
in the way that we will if this is given to an external candidate who turns out to be a flop.
Agreed.
I feel as though the pressure is more on an external candidate coming in than it would be on Danny. And the pressure also there is going to be on the decision makers in the club as they make that decision, that they've got to make sure if they're not going for Danny Stone, you have to get this right.
Another aspect I think that helps Danny in terms of should Danny be the manager come 2025 in recruiting players, you look at his CV, he's been in MLS, he's been overseas, he was a player. He has connections that can help players get elevated, which, whether you agree with it or not, coaches' connections help players get to other levels. Pure accolades, pure stats, pure performance does not. And that's just the way life works generally. But he has the ability to recruit guys and say, hey, I have phone calls I can make to multiple teams at the MLS level.
He worked under the current head coach of RSL. He worked under the current head coach of Atlanta's MLS Next Pro team.
I mean, he has a very good friend who's now an assistant at Houston.
Yeah.
Right? Like there are definitely reasons why players will still want to come to Phoenix because of the connections that the manager can give them. Right? Like the easiest story is Zach Lubin got a got to go to Seattle, right, on an emergency stint purely because his old coach was up there and needed a keeper, right? Like it's that simple. And the players get their opportunity, coaches get their opportunities, and let's just see if Danny is given the opportunity, if he can take it. And again, if I was in charge, obviously I'm not, I would appoint Danny. But who knows? Maybe they are looking for a big name that we just haven't thought of because we just don't know who they're talking to.
I'll say while this came together very quickly, though, the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause in all of this is that it was known by last week that the intent, even though there was some dragging on of negotiations, of a compensation and all of that, was known by the end of last week the intent was for Juan Guerra to leave his team. I'm surprised now if they are just looking internally to Danny Stone, given that, to be fair, he's the only real internal candidate I think you have.
Sure.
Well, why not name him? Why not name him?
He could have been. That's almost the thing that's making me wonder here.
Like, did they really want to give themselves
pure speculation? 2 weeks? I don't want to play any more into this one beyond just saying that it's a bit strange to me that if it is going to be Danny, that it's taking this long.
Maybe.
They have training next week.
I agree.
Yeah, next week.
I agree. The devil's advocate, and this is my guess, my hypothesis as to maybe why it's taking so long. Just letting it breathe a bit, man. It's a lot if you're going to compound even in a back-to-back day span of Juan Guerra's leaving, even same day or next day. Okay, boom. By the way, we have our manager. I understand you need to for team purposes. Just a lot. It's a lot for people to digest, and I get it. You need to move on, but I don't know. I think it's nice to have this opportunity to soak it in, talk about it, and let the fans relish in the accomplishment. But knowing that, okay, yeah, like by the end of like this week, early next, you got to have someone in place.
I mean, I assume that the club's going to post pictures from players returning. It's not going to be full blown training, right? They're going to go into their physicals. They're all that. But by a week's time, a week from today, maybe 7-8 days from now, you're going to be on the pitch actually playing. Who's going to be the one directing?
When those players arrive, they often sit down in
a
room. They have the meeting. They have the big presentation up there, and they remind them what their goals for the season are, what their club is about, all of that. Who's leading that right now?
Yeah.
Who? I mean, you're going to send Bobby Dooley in to do that? You're going to send Brendan McCarthy in to do that? I mean, they're not the right people probably to do that in that particular moment. That should be coming from the player's head coach, to be honest. That's the person who sets the tone throughout the course of the year, right?
That's
it's
the boss.
One that they're directly interacting with on a day-to-day basis. That's the person they've got to be in that, have that relationship with in that team. And that's, if you're going internally, get it done, get it announced, let everyone breathe. Because I do fear as well that the longer this drags on, the more the fans are going to get nervy because everything's coming together so close. Is there time? Yes, of course there is. But I see Dale, they're saying about Darnell would be a good choice. To give a speech maybe? Yeah, okay. I can understand that. That's a fair point. Yeah. That's a fair point. But even then, if a new head coach comes in and they're going to want to put their own stamp on things.
I mean, you've seen former players, not just at the USL level, but just whether it's David Beckham, whether they'll refer to their former managers as boss. Still, they're all retired. They'll call Sir Alex Ferguson boss. I've seen former players call Jose Mourinho boss to this day, right? Like the immense respect that you have for your manager, especially if there's someone that you're willing to run through a brick wall for, which I'd be willing to say Juan was one of them. It's a big deal who you go up to work and show up for every day. Do they inspire you to give your all as well? I mean, that's part of the job that whoever manages this team has to have, is you have to be able to get the best out of these guys. Like that is man management is probably even harder than the actual tactics on the field.
100%, 100%. And Devin, don't you bring up Neil Warnock in that chat? Don't you bring that on this team?
Yeah, right out.
We're talking about continuity from Juan Guerra.
Boy.
We're not going to Warnock ball. Okay?
Right after Jake makes a clearly blatant direct comparison, Juan Guerra, David Beckham, Sir Alex Ferguson, and Jose Mourinho. It's a like-for-like comparison.
Yeah,
Devin,
Neil Warnock.
Exactly. Yeah.
No,
Well,
I'm not sure. No, don't Mick McCarthy either before that pops up in there.
No. Kiboshing that.
No big
No. Stop it, Brady. No, it's
no Steve Bruce.
Okay, this has gone out of hand. There's a lot of candidates out there. Phoenix Rising is going to have to figure it out. There's a lot going on. Oh no. There's a lot going on.
Producer Damon is really excited at Big Sam being referenced.
He's something. There's a lot going on. Rising is gonna have to figure it out. Oh geez. Brands is a partner we absolutely love and adore. OG's Brands just has all of the fantastic stuff. Guys, again, it's a new year. It's a theme here, right? Start off, don't go small, go big. They got the big OGs. It's the mega version of their pegs. RSO, it is one of their most popular products. It has the nice 100 milligram THC. That's 100 milligrams in one gummy, but it's perforated. That way you can get a little, 10 milligram here, 10 milligram there, all perforated in big OGs. It's absolutely wonderful. And then they also have their new line, the OG's Naturals, vegan gummies with live rosin within, sweet clementine. That's a cool flavor right there. Sweet clementine, got the big OGs as well. Check out these two and all the different products that OG's Brands has to offer at ogsbrands.com. Find them at a local dispensary near you. Must be 20 years or older to enjoy.
Was that vegan OGs you said?
Because
I have actually had a request from a Rising fan to pass that feedback on.
I did say vegan. Vegan OGs. OG's Naturals, baby. Find them at ogsbrands.com. Of course, other things you can find on the web. Go to phnxlocker.com. Again, phnxlocker.com. Mr. Owen Evans, if you don't mind removing the microphone stand, you got a little...
I mean, you can see it. You can see it on there.
Oh, yeah. You can... actually, my computer's in the way.
Mine actually... that's actually a worse angle of us for it.
Yeah. Hey, can I get a... Hey, stop up in the... Stop hogging the camera. Can I get a little closer on me, too, please? I got the nice... Hey. Whoa, yeah. Look...
oh, God, no. Don't do that to the camera.
Woo!
Camera's about to crack. Quick, get it off.
We can't boo the Max Cam. No.
Boo the Max Cam.
No.
Boo.
Anyway, you can boo me, but you can't boo the shirts and all the merch at the phnxlocker.com. Again, if you guys don't have your Rise at the Top, what are you doing? It's a great shirt. We still have sizes available. Go to phnxlocker.com. Diehards, you get your first shirt for free, and then you get discounts on everything afterwards. Become a diehard today. Rumor has it, it's the only way you can view a certain event on February 1st. That's all we're going to say. We don't have to move,
Max,
move on.
Getting a tattoo?
No, I wouldn't say.
Max is getting a tattoo.
I wouldn't say that.
Max, you getting a tattoo?
Juan Guerra left the club because Max didn't get a tattoo.
I believe it was mentioned. Might have been mentioned. Oh, okay.
Man, the tattoo. Wow.
Yeah, it is.
February 1st.
Oh, boy. It is a diehard exclusive. Again, you must be a diehard. The only way you can take this in, it will not be available to the public. Again, phnxlocker.com. Get that membership today. You literally get a free shirt for it. You get all kinds of stuff with it, and you get to watch that spectacle. It'll be something. Goodness. Yeah, everyone. Well, oddly enough, we have even more Rising news to talk about, as if a head coaching vacancy and potential replacements weren't enough. We actually have other things going on. We have alluded to it multiple times in talking about the guys who are already in the room, candidates. He's a guy who had a great season last year for Phoenix Rising. Darnell King has transitioned to coaching for Phoenix Rising.
He has, right? And I think it's a good move in terms of keeping a guy who we know this club means a lot to, and he means a lot to this club as well, right? We've spoken about, when people have questioned his captaincy in the past 2 years, and you always have those gobby people from outside of the, who don't speak to people on the inside, who just know that he must be a terrible captain for some reason or another. But those of us who actually speak to people on the team know that that's never been the case. He's been really, really important in terms of just his influence in that locker room. His role in making sure that even in the low moments, the team sticks together, that they don't just completely collapse, and the way that he's contributed to the team in that manner has just been, you can't put a value on it. It's so important. I think keeping him around for that kind of effect in the locker room, huge. And again, right, this is someone who he's working on his own coaching licenses, right? He's up to a B license very shortly. He's going to complete that in April, I believe. So he is making that progress. I wasn't sure if we'd see this or not, but I'm really happy for him that he's able to hang up the boots now as a champion and take on a new challenge.
I mean, we talked about when the initial players list came out and his name wasn't there, and it was like, why not just keep him for a locker room presence? Because, as Owain just said, we have heard nothing but good things about how the guy keeps the team calm, brings the team together. The kids talked about, like the academy kids talked about how they had a relationship with Darnell, which I would be willing to say most senior level players don't do, right? Like there's like, what's the advantage to building a relationship with the academy players other than, it's just who Darnell is. I told the story about how he coached my niece, and she's in Phoenix Rising's academy as well. And it's just keeping a guy like that. He was almost a coach on the field as well, right? We saw him, his form dipped, right, as his career came to the end. But when he was on the field, he always had the captain's armband. It was never a question of who the leader of the team was, right? And the fact that they are keeping him in the locker room, and I hope he can stay here as long as possible. But again, if in a couple of years' time he gets an opportunity, we'll be happy to see him go as well. So it all comes back down to the culture that Juan built here, right? The assistants that he has that we have dealt with for a long time now, we feel that as well. I can't imagine what that's like for the players.
Yeah.
Someone you work with every single day. I mean, anyone at your job, if you don't like the people you work with, you're not going to have a great job. You're not going to go in and give it your all. You're not going to, right? Like, it's all part of, it all encompasses itself. So to keep Darnell, I think was a massive move. And especially now that Juan's gone, like, I think the fact that you do have Darnell, he can be the patch for now until we figure out who actually will lead this team.
Agreed. Definitely have to like the people you work with. Yes, Darnell King. Shout out to Stat Lackey Reese Brady on this one. Right, he made his first appearance.
Stop bullying Stat Lackey. Stop bullying Stat Lackey,
He made
Max.
his first appearance.
Be nice.
With the club back in the 2020 season opener, right? He made 110 total appearances for the club, 98 starts. Big numbers of a guy who has done it all. Captain for the team the last, 2 seasons, right? We know Kev Lambert named captain, but right, moved on. RSL, Darnell has a more prominent role, all that stuff. The guy was the out-and-out captain, and it's cool to see, right? It's something where you never know how players, where they're prominent for a club, what that transition looks like post-playing, whether, and then especially going into coaching, whether it's for the club or not. It's never a guarantee. But I think just from a guy who leads from example and a guy who is just beloved by his teammates, by all accounts, who handles the locker room, who, he's a guy who he's fresh off of winning a cup. That's a fantastic influence to have on a team that is already familiar with him. It could not be a better situation to have him add to your staff.
They already respect him for a guy that was not the number one player on the starting 11 every single day.
Yes.
I think this transition is going to be seamless. He'll basically be doing what he was doing, when he did pick up the injury. Yeah. Right. That's basically what he'll be, because he was in form, picked up the knock, and never really fully captured his starting spot back.
Yep.
And I think that's probably, he probably wanted to coach anyway, but I think that was kind of the yes, sure, this will work, especially here.
I'll add this. When you see him being flown out to Tulsa away when he wasn't in the 18, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in this league. If they know you're not going to be in the squad, the match day squad, you're not getting flown over 100%. There. The fact they flew him over there because of the impact that he has in that locker room tells you exactly what impact he had in that locker room.
Yes.
And look, there will be a learning curve because, of course, there's still elements around things like how training is going to work and taking responsibility for things like that and all of those kind of side kind of roles that come along with being a coach. But I think in terms of just leadership in there, yeah, that'll be a seamless transition for him.
And it will be interesting. Chad is already on it, right? I mean, with Darnell King officially not going to be playing in the squad, this will be fun speculation moving forward, but the squad will need an official captain. I see Siley in the chat, Panos for captaining, seeing Devin in the chat, Gallardo for captain. Darnell King is out. Arteaga is no longer with the club. Who is the vice captain? It'll be interesting. Jose Andres Hernandez for a shout, perhaps. We will see.
We'll see. You
see, you don't like.
That's your shout. I'd have put another name forward.
If Juan was here, I would have said Panos for sure. Now, I don't know.
It'll be interesting.
We'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
We have to see who the new coach is. That's going to be a critical part of who's the new captain.
Can't put the cart before the horse, as they say. But speaking of guys who have also come back, Traore, guy who, right, we talked about, you're talking about Darnell King, maybe not being in that spot, starting off the season, losing it, getting back, all that stuff. Traore, guy had quite the arc. Guy who struggled a bit early on, was very much like, okay, there's some questions here. Listen, he got a lot of shouts for that I forget how we titled it, but the most, is it most improved, how we had in the awards? Blanking off the top of my head, but essentially the guy
Unsung hero.
He very much got shouts for that because he was a guy who, you look at the arc over the course of the season, 20 starts over 24 total appearances, 1,700 plus minutes played, won the majority of his tackles, won the majority of his duels, and we just say some exquisite through line passes for a defender. I mean, my word, just on a rope. Some of those assists were just gorgeous.
It's not a shock to me that he's back. Because I think what we saw by the end of the season was a player who can definitely play a role in a USL Championship team, but still probably isn't quite ready to crack it at MLS level at this stage. I think this is going to be a very interesting season to see what he's able to do, to see if he can make that case to maybe find himself back at an MLS team in the near future or not. If he plays more like he did in the second half of the season compared to the first, I think there's a chance that he could do just that.
Yep.
We did see, as you mentioned, just the ability to pick out some really, really exciting balls from the back and find ways to kind of slice through the opposition at times with those balls forward and read the runs of his teammates. And defensively, I think he stepped it up in the second half of the season as well.
Absolutely.
Let's not forget how young this kid is. He couldn't legally have a drink until August of last season.
Yeah.
Like, he's 21.
It's wild.
Like, he'll turn 22 toward the end of this season. Like, this kid still has 10 years left of legs under him.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, he still has ability to grow. And like Owen just said, I hope this is the season that he really makes that jump.
Yeah.
And like every other USL player, honestly, like, I hope he gets an opportunity to go back and
100%.
And Phoenix can, perhaps benefit off of that.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see the continuity, right? You have Stenberg returning alongside him. You have Rocco behind him. You have wingbacks who, right, familiarity with a lot of, guys in the midfield.
Rocco, of course, reported to be back.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
That's fair. That's
Again,
a fair
and
shot.
Rocco's obviously with the under-23s until the end of the month.
Yes.
So do not be shocked that he's not there when they report, because he's in Venezuela for the Olympic qualifiers.
Yes, very fair shout. And, speaking of reporting and everything like that, there are preseason games as well, man. The news just does not stop. First preseason match, Saturday, January 27th.
Max, you're not going to be there, are you?
No, I will not.
No, he's not. See?
The return of Trey
You'll be
Muse.
there, won't you?
Yeah, I want to see... I hope Trey Muse plays. We can meet his dad.
We did have a chat for comment in the chat further up, actually saying about how, hey, maybe this team can beat Trey Muse twice in a row.
Goodness gracious, yes, against the Portland Tremors at Phoenix Rising Stadium.
His dad
1 o'clock. Will his dad come?
O'clock.
I don't know if he will.
Yep. And then after that, they're heading to Coachella, bro. Coachella in California for the Coachella Valley.
You would say it like that, wouldn't you, Max?
Coachella, bro. Hang 10 NAR. Coachella Valley Invitational
What
Saturday.
was that?
Shred the NAR, bro.
What was that?
Shred the NAR. You want a Max cam on? Dude, put me on there. Shred the NAR, bro.
He's getting heckled at the moment from behind the computer.
Never. Well, we already have established that Damon Dog is a dishonorable judge who just brings in false facts and just.
Although we have
scummy.
clarified that you are his mortal enemy, right?
Oh, he has
because of the
that.
pizza.
I have nothing but love for Dim
because
and
of the
Dog.
pizza.
He didn't
The
like me
pizza,
long before pizza.
That pizza.
Anyway,
But yeah, they're playing in Coachella.
Saturday, February 10th against Minnesota United. Again, a 1 o'clock kickoff. Saturday, February 24th at 7 p.m. against Las Vegas Lights at
What a
Phoenix
terrible
Rising Stadium.
friendly.
Yeah, that's a toughie.
Who on earth wants to, have you ever got yourself excited? Go, wow, I really want to watch Rising play Las Vegas Lights in a meaningless game.
I will say last time Las Vegas was here, though, they did come away with 3 points.
They did, but who wants to go watch Las Vegas Lights? They don't even have a team right now.
Heck yeah.
Maybe Rising
I mean,
won't
look,
lose.
who wants to watch Vegas Lights anyway?
Yeah.
Even in the season.
I agree.
Sly in the chat, Cowabunga. And yes, Reese, free GC. GC
Now,
friendly
of course,
or
remember,
re-riot.
more friendlies liable to be added as
yes.
time goes on. But there's one more as well.
Saturday, March 1st, 7 p.m. LA Galaxy to Phoenix Rising Stadium. And then, guys, week afterwards, regular season hits. It's gonna hit so dang hard. It's gonna be awesome, guys. A lot of games to look forward to, a lot of news to look forward to.
Isn't that actually a Friday, that last one, I think?
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's a Friday, yeah.
Listen, man, I copied it from the website.
Friday.
I don't know
Well,
what to tell
the website doesn't say it.
you. What? Am I wrong? What? Are you gonna fact check me? Fact check
The
me.
website doesn't say a day.
Huh?
Website just says the date, not a day.
Oh, no. I copied it from somewhere. Fact check it, bro.
He's copying things, but he's not copying them very well. It's a Friday, Max. Friday the 1st.
Plead the 5th. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's the 1st, right? It's March 1st. There we go. Oh, and one more. There's an open combine this weekend.
You trying out, Max?
People said they want
I
that
hear
for
there's a
content.
Golden Boot winner over here.
There
I hear
is.
he might be.
Yeah, you know.
Do you think he should, Jake?
Producer Lee was also suggesting that earlier.
I tried
It's,
like 5 years ago, and they said no.
I don't listen. I
wouldn't
want
let
to
me.
give people a fair shot.
I'll text them tomorrow. We'll get an answer on this either way.
I want to be able to give
Can
people
Max
a fair
try
shot.
out for Phoenix Rising FC?
Won't be much of a tryout if you know what I mean. But no, it's. I want to give people a fair shot. I'm gonna respectfully decline again.
No.
Pedigree is
Don't
there,
you go.
folks.
Don't you go.
It's okay. I'm being the bigger man here. I'm being the bigger man.
Max,
I'm respectfully
if we could get you in there, would you do it?
I'm respectfully bowing out. Because I want to give people a fair opportunity.
Remember, guys, the important thing here is peer pressure. If you all want it to happen,
has never once worked on me.
much like the tattoo, it may.
Would
happen.
you trade the tattoo for a trial? I can't offer that because I
Oh,
don't.
actually,
Judge?
you owe us another forfeit.
Oh gosh darn
You
it!
owe us
Yeah.
another forfeit, Max.
Anyway, I think that's the end of our show. I can't think of anything
Max
else.
is trying out.
Yes. Sorry, guys. It's a little short notice. I think I pulled my hammy. Anyway,
There we go. Look, the people are saying it will be awesome content.
I bet the people would like that. No. There's one Damon's already too many.
Max, you trying out?
No. Anyway,
Are you trying out, Max?
respectfully declining again.
No.
It's in my contract. Can't. I don't. Max doesn't try out. Anyway, appreciate everyone joining us here on the PHNX Rising
Max,
podcast.
look, if you're good enough, Max, did you know this? If you were
Got his
good
mic.
enough, and I'm led to believe that Max Simpson is a Golden Boot winner.
Here we go.
That if you're good enough, a select number of participants will be given the opportunity to attend preseason with the first team and make an appearance in a friendly against an MLS team in January.
Yeah.
You could play in that game against Trey Muse, Max. If you're good enough, you could play against Trey Muse. You could put your money where your mouth is and show us those Golden Boot skills against Trey Muse.
You do owe us another forfeit, Max. And playing the sport that you love, is that really so bad?
Ooh.
We send me or Emma out there with the camera, start getting some video content of you trying out.
Wouldn't that be great?
Sounds fun.
Unbelievable.
Sounds really fun.
Doesn't it sound fun?
It does sound fun.
Phenomenal. I'll make the phone call tomorrow.
Let's make the phone call, schedule it out.
Just get it
seems
down
like
on
we
the
got
day.
a plan.
Yeah, so
you busy
Tyler
on Friday,
Terrence did have a
Max?
trial, but
You
I don't
busy
think
on
he got a
Friday,
call.
Max?
Hold on 1 second.
You are now.
Hello?
Look at that. It's not even black. It's we can see the background.
You can't see. Oh, yeah, guys, I'm so sorry. I will not be able to make it. Again, appearance fees, the whole Golden Boot thing. It's too much conflict of interest. Anyway,
Appearance
this has
fees.
been the PHNX Rising podcast. As I will end the show, I will end it. Appreciate everyone following us and watching along. It's been 2 days worth of just nonstop news content. Everyone joining us yesterday, everyone joining us today, everyone who's going to be joining us next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Appreciate you guys. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at PHNX __rising, double the underscore. I'm not going to even ask anyone.
Double the Max is trying out.
And nope, you can follow me as I didn't even ask. Follow me on Twitter at Max David Simpson.
You can follow him on the field as well as Phoenix Rising take on Portland Timbers. If Max can prevail through the open tryout.
Okay, that was actually pretty good. You can follow Owen on Twitter at OJEvans18.
I will not be on the field. It's okay.
Yeah, you couldn't lace in my boots. You can follow Jake on Twitter at JWA1994. You can follow StatLackey Reese at Reese11 _. Don't follow Damon Dog. He is a
follow Damon.
He's a dishonorable human being. I guess actually no. Follow him at Damon Dog DAWG woohoo. And very much heckle him as I do on a daily basis. But no, appreciate everyone joining us. It's a fun
Max, we don't heckle people on Twitter unless they're you. Remember?
You heckle me on Twitter and in real life.
No, we don't heckle other people, Max, unless they're you.
That is just incredibly hypocritical. Anyway, appreciate everyone joining us. We'll see you guys next week. It is a beautiful game, but it's way more beautiful when, a lot of turnover head coaching stuff doesn't happen kind of on the eve of the season, but we're going to end up rebounding and it's all going to be all good and we're going to defend the title offense.
It's a beautiful game, but it's even more beautiful when Max goes to the open tryouts.
No, do not end it on that.
Thank you very much.
No,
Good
don't
night.
end.
We all silly like the mayor.